Well, certainly energy is absolutely key, especially in the African continent, where you still do have a significant number of people without any form of energy whatsoever. But when you look at the nuclear energy, that's a very interesting subject matter. But joining us now is the African Commission on Nuclear Energy. This, of course, the Executive Secretary, Mr. Agboraw. Thank you so much once again, sir, for your time.
Thank you.
So when we talk about nuclear energy, it's a very interesting form of energy because, I mean, obviously it requires a lot of expertise, but let's look at Africa's potential, the natural resources we have in our disposal.
Africa supplies about 20% of the world's uranium, and that is the fuel that is used to power nuclear reactors. In terms of the human capital that's needed to run nuclear power plants, we have it. We have Africans that are educated in nuclear sciences and technology, and we can also build capacity. It takes time to construct a nuclear power plant. And in that time, we can build the vocational capacity that we need to run the plants. In terms of graduate capacity, we already have it. And nuclear power is absolutely essential for the development of this continent. Right now, because of the climate emergency, we know that fossil fuels are not the future. So we're looking at renewables. We're looking at solar, we're looking at wind. Solar and wind are not reliable and they are not dispatchable. So while they are important, we cannot rely on them to power any industrial economy. We have hydroelectricity, which is also a renewable source of power. But because of climate change, water resources are drying up. If you're looking to the future, then hydro, while it's important right now for many African countries, it probably isn't going to be there in the long term. So if we want a reliable, sustainable, dispatchable source of energy to power Africa's industrial future, then nuclear is the best option. Of course, we have to use the solar and other renewable resources that we have because we have a lot of that on the continent. But the central pillar, in my opinion, is nuclear power.
And also when you look at the expertise that we have in Africa, you know, oftentimes the issue of the cost is always a big factor. Do you think Africa has what it takes to make sure that we construct these nuclear plants, but also in terms of maintenance, and also at some point when you need to decommission, especially because a lot of people still do think of what happened in Japan with the Fukushima plant? Do we have what it takes to oversee all these processes?
I think that we do have what it takes in terms of human resources, and we do have the time required to plug any gaps in capacity that we may have before these plants are sort of fully deployed. Just to go back to Fukushima, I just want to have it on the record that the accident in Fukushima did not kill anybody. Nobody died because of the Fukushima accident. So it's important that the public has the correct information. I mean, anything to do with nuclear is has a kind of dramatic connotation to it because of the history of how nuclear energy developed. If you go back to the Second World War, the bombs in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, we've seen all of that in movies, we've read in books, we read about sparring between big powers. So what is in the public consciousness is the negative side of nuclear. Everything that has a bad side has a good side. And in Africa, what we need are the peaceful applications of nuclear energy for the production of electricity, in agriculture, food security, health security, water security, and nuclear energy can play a very big role in engendering these fundamentals of socio-economic development in Africa.
Mm. And I would imagine, say, it's such an indictment that you have 600 million Africans without any form of energy. Do you think nuclear is an answer to this? But also just in terms of making sure that, for example, when you look at the threats around climate change, do you think it's reliable in terms of making sure that when you talk about adaptation to climate change, it's a good method?
I think so. I believe that nuclear energy is, or let's say nuclear energy will play a major role in transforming our continent.